Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading and thank you for subscribing to this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. At the time of this recording, it is Father's Day. So let me be the first to wish each and every one of you who are listening and who are watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. A happy Father's Day. Um, every year I try to do something different with Father's Day because I think it's a very very important holiday. And this year it's gonna be a little bit off a little bit because I didn't have anything specific that I wanted to talk about. Just wanted to kind of give you my thoughts, thoughts from a father, if you will. Um, if you've been following the podcast, you know the previous episode was the top 10 black TV dads, my personal top 10 black TV dads. And I enjoyed doing that episode. Uh, but I didn't want that to be the only representation for Father's Day. I wanted to actually put out a bonus episode on Father's Day. And I won't be long, but I just wanted to give you my thoughts of a father. Um, I think it goes without saying that I would not be who I am, the man that I am, the young man that the young man that I've developed into being, had it not been for my father. Um, my father is still here and still alive and kicking, and he's been a huge influence on my life. And probably, I'm not gonna say probably, definitely my biggest fan. Um, and also like my best friend. Uh, and what was interesting was as we were growing up, as me and my brother Damon, we lived with our parents until I was 13, almost 14, when my parents got divorced. But my dad would always tell us, he would say, like, when you're at this stage, I'm more like I'm your father. But as you get older, I'm going to be more like your friend and we're going to be like best friend. And he wasn't lying. I mean, that's really how our relationship has developed over the years. Um, and I'm very thankful for that because I know that that's not something that everybody has. And another thing that I'm thankful for is like, or actually one thing that I realized, and I mentioned this on previous podcasts, but it's worth repeating. Like growing up, the common thread between me and probably 10 of my closest friends was that we all had our fathers, and all of our fathers were in our lives. Um, most of them were still married to their wives, but they were always there for all my friends. So I didn't have a friend. I didn't have any friends growing up who had like deadbeat dads or who didn't know who their daddy was or baby mama drama. I just didn't. I didn't have that. So in a lot of ways, I didn't see that probably until I don't know. It's just as far as my close friends, probably not until I got to college. I didn't just didn't. And I think that's looking back on it, it was just for me, it seemed very normal to have not only your father in your life, but your friends have their fathers in their lives. But I didn't know how much an anomaly that truly was. Um, but I was definitely appreciative and thankful the fact that you know I had that and that structure and that person there. And at some point I'm going to get my dad on the podcast because we've talked about having him on. Um, but I want to share something with you that I had not. Uh, probably I've only told maybe a handful of people outside of crew. Um, back in February. In fact, it was Super Bowl Sunday to be exact. Um, we had a huge scare. My dad had a stroke, right? And what was weird was I got the call from my sister. Um, because my dad remarried, had my sister. I also have my stepbrother. Um, my sister called. When my sister called, we don't call each other. Like we text, but we don't call each other a lot. And she's 13 years younger than me. And we had talked on my birthday in this past December. And what was interesting was, when we talked on my birthday, she said, "Yeah, hey, we need to call and we need to do more communicating and catching up and stuff like that." And she's like, "I'm gonna call you and we'll chop it up or whatever because I want to let you know what's going on, so forth and so on." I was like, "All right, cool." So when she called me Super Bowl Sunday, it was that morning, probably around 10:30. What was interesting was when I saw her name pop up, I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." I'm like, "Kara, it's calling me." And as she was telling me about, I was like, "Hey, what's up?" She was like, "Nothing." She was like, "Daddy," and she started talking. And what was weird was it took me a minute to kind of process what it was she was saying. It's like I heard her, but it sounded so surreal. Like she was telling me about, I mean, he never lost consciousness or anything like that, but he had a stroke. And I still couldn't wrap my head. We literally were like, she was 2 minutes into the conversation before it kind of registered to me like my father's in danger. Like, and that was just like so foreign and so strange to me. So I couldn't really, I wasn't really processing it. And then when it finally hit me, I'm like, okay, because she wasn't in a panic or anything, but she was upset. Um, and she had told me what happened, and his responses to the questions he was being asked were kind of weird. But it was like, all right, let's just take him to the hospital. Fortunately for them, the hospital literally is around the corner from where they live in South Carolina. And so, but when he got to the hospital, I think before before they were taking him back to be seen, he had a seizure. And that was tough. I don't know if my sister saw it. I know my stepmom saw it, but I'm sure that had to be tough and scary at the same time. So the she's telling me this, and so I'm trying to process everything. And I don't live in South Carolina, so I'm thinking what I got to do to get home, you know, so forth and so on. And then I'm thinking now I have to get off. Once we finally got off the phone, um, I had to call my brother. No, no, what I did was, I'm sorry, I didn't. We didn't get off the phone. I called my brother Damon, who's 3 years younger than me, and I put him on the three-way. So we were all on the phone together. He was out of town. He was in like Tennessee. He was celebrating something with his family, and so he's out of town. I'm out of town, and we're both not really sure what's going on or what's going to happen. And there was probably a 3 to 4 hour window where I really didn't know. I wasn't being given information, but I also didn't know how severe it was. I didn't know if he was going to make it. And that was different because, you don't, I'm sure, regardless of whether or not we want to or not, a lot of people have been in those situations. This is a first for me. Um, so, got off the phone, my sister. I called my mom, who again, my parents aren't, they've been divorced since I was 13. Um, Called my mom and told her what happened. She said she'd pray. And so we prayed. And then now I'm thinking, okay, now I have to alert my family. Um, and you don't really know how these conversations are going to go, particularly with children. Um, because everybody doesn't see things, you know, everybody doesn't see things the same. Um, and you don't know how kids are going to react to stuff. You just don't. So, um, because we are close, I was able to, I talked to her with Sharice, my wife, and told her what was going on. And then it was like, okay, well, let's get the kids in here. Because I was actually supposed to be going to Houston the next day, but I was in Atlanta, and of course I had to postpone that flight. But we had our kids come in the room. At the time, it was Skylar and Brandon because they're the two that are here. And then we called our oldest two, Dion and Cameron, who are away at college. Dion's in grad school and Cameron's in undergrad. Um, and having to have that conversation to let them know that their grandfather had had a stroke. I didn't know about the seizure, but I knew about the stroke. I didn't find out about the seizure until later. But that was tough. And there's not honestly there's nothing that can prepare you for those conversations. That's the part of parenthood that they don't tell you about. Um, but I got through it without, you know, I got through as best I could, and then eventually I kind of broke down. Um, and so I'm still not knowing what's going to happen. I'm faithful, but I'm not knowing. And we hadn't planned anything. I mean, we were just having like a little regular Super Bowl party, just a family, just us watching the game. Nobody coming over or anything like. Um, so I think like for the next couple hours, I just kind of floated. I really didn't do much. Really didn't say much. I just kind of was in my thoughts and not really sure how everything's gonna play out. My stepmom called um, because I went out to go get pizza, and when I went out to go get pizza, when she called, I saw her name pop up on my phone. Uh, I took a deep breath and I was preparing myself to hear whatever it was she had to say. When she started speaking, she wasn't crying or anything like that. She sounded strong. So I was immediately relieved to know that, and she relayed to me that he was okay. He's recovering. Um, Still a scare nonetheless. Uh, and so I was like, okay, that's my guy. That's my dad. I got to go see him. So went to go see him. By the time, no, by the time I got there, they had moved him from the hospital to a rehab facility, and he was going to spend like a week or two in the rehab facility. Um, he was able to get up. He was able to walk, talk. He knew his name. He was cognizant. He seemed like dad. And you know, I was I felt much better once I saw him because you don't know when people have strokes or any type of trauma, particularly when they're older. Uh, and this cat is 77 years old. So when that kind of stuff happens, you're not sure how they're going to react. I think one of the fears that I had was like walking into a room and he not know who I was. That would have been devastating. Uh, but once I got a chance to lay eyes on him, hug him, talk to him, me and my brother, we talked to him. We sat in his room probably for a couple of hours and just talked to him. Kids got a chance to see him, love on him, and he got in a wheelchair. walked him downstairs and stuff, and he was cool. He was cool in the rehab facility, and I'd gotten word that you know by the time within the next day or two he'd be leaving the rehab facility and being able to go. The day before he's supposed to leave the rehab facility, he has another seizure. That was tough because it sent him from rehab back to the hospital. And this was, I want to say, so I was back in, I went back to Atlanta. Then I had to go to Houston. I was back in Houston, and I was, I talked to him on the phone each day, and even talking to him on the phone, everything. I mean, like if nothing, if I didn't tell you something that happened, you wouldn't have known because he sounded like that. Um, but that second seizure, things, changed. Um, at least in my mind, it. Uh, but he was able to bounce back from that, and then he had to go. He was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. Then he went to the rehab facility again for like another 2 weeks, and then he was able to go home. And what was interesting was, and I came back, went to my hometown of Florence, South Carolina, to see him, and spend time with him, and it was almost like old times. Now this time he was getting around with a walker, so he wasn't just kind of walking on his own, and obviously can't drive. And we were just talking about things that he needs to do. Conversations were the same, but the one thing I did notice is like he would his long term memory is great, but some of his short term memory still needs work. Like it's like he's one of the smartest people I know, probably the smartest person I know, one of the most smartest people on planet Earth. But his short term memory, like he would confuse days. Like if I talked to him on Monday and then I called him on Wednesday, or let's say I talked to him on Monday and I didn't talk to him again on Friday, he'd say, "Yeah, I talked to you yesterday." Like he had no concept of the fact that a whole 4 days had passed between the last time that we talked. He thought that we talked the previous day. Um, little stuff like that. Nothing. There doesn't seem to be any type of cognitive damage. Um, but if you ask him something about like we were talking one day about some stuff that happened when I was like 8, and he could remember it and tell you verbatim every single thing that happened, every step of the way, and which is kind of weird. And then we talk some about his family, or uncles and aunts and stuff like that, family members growing. I mean, he could give you full stories, but some of the short term stuff just isn't there. And that's okay. Maybe it'll come back. I don't know. Um, Fast forward to now, he's I'm not gonna say he's back to normal because I don't know if he'll ever be normal, but he's probably about as close to it. If I had to put a percentage on, he's probably about at 85%, which is great because my stepmom told me, she said literally, the doctor told her, like, look, the stroke and the seizure behind it, 99% of the people that happen to, they die. They don't survive. And so for him to go through that and survive it, it happened for a reason. I don't know what the reason is, but I'm thankful. So on this Father's Day, more than any other time, I'm thankful that my father's still here. Thankful that I can pick up the phone, or I can jump in a car, jump on a plane, go see him. And we can talk and laugh, and he remembers me, and he remembers everything about me and everything, kids and everything. I mean, like he hasn't lost, he's lost some of the sharpness, but he's still sharp. And I'm thankful because I understand that. And I have close friends now who, some of the same friends that I grew up with, their fathers aren't here. And that's tough because, their father, they are fathers, but their fathers aren't here. And, I'm not really sure how that touches people, particularly my guys, on Father's Day. Maybe a little happier, maybe a little sad. I don't know because your dad's not there. And I understand that, yeah, at some point in time, no, all of us can check out it. But my objective, just for me, is to be here as long as I can. Uh, I truly believe like we all have a purpose on this earth. And I think that, I heard somebody say this once, and I can't remember who said it, but like, you have to prepare your children to live in a world without you. And that's a cold reality, right? Cold reality. Because I don't want to ever live on this earth without my dad. But in reality, I know that one day I will. Hopefully, that day is so, so far away from here. But those moments back in February taught me that those days are a lot closer than I'd like to believe. And it also makes you think about your own mortality as well. Um, but I'm thankful that he's here. And I, celebrate and rejoice each day that he's here. And I cherish our phone conversations and I cherish when I see him because I've seen him a few times. And, looking forward to seeing him again, and talking to him. Um, Definitely gonna give him a call today, as I do every Father's Day, and he constantly tells me and my brother, how proud he is of us and what we've accomplished in our life. And I tell him all the time, like, look, man, you laid the blueprint. And I tell anybody, like, both my mom and my dad, like, if when it's all said and done, if I could be half the parent that they are, I think I'm a success. I don't measure my success on how much money I made, how big my house is, how many cars I have. I don't measure my success by that. I measure my success by the people who raised me, and I'm trying to be the young man who they raised to be. I mean, it sounds crazy, but that's my goal. I want to be somebody that, my folks can be proud of. And then subsequently being a father now, I want my kids to be proud of me. If you're listening, excuse me, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching. But if you look at this shirt that I have on, it has the names of the kids: Dion, Cameron, Brandon, and Skylar. Also has Sharice, but she's not a child. Um, those are my heartbeats. I can't really put into words what Father's Day means to me because it sounds cliche, but I'm going to say it. But every day is Father's Day, to be honest. I have a great set of kids. But what's interesting is like we have four kids. Like, and the running joke is we have four kids because we don't want five. But I remember Sharice and I when we were in college. For those of you who don't know, we went to and graduated from South Carolina State University. Uh, that's where we met. But when we were dating in college, I remember us having conversations about, becoming parents. And I'm amazed sometimes. Sometimes, particularly like when we're at home and all of the kids are home and we're sitting at the dinner table and we're eating and we're having a conversation because we always eat dinner together, always. We may not all eat breakfast at the same. Well, we try to eat breakfast together, but schedules and stuff like that. But um, when everybody's there, we eat dinner together. We have a conversation. So everybody sits at the table and everybody is engaged in the conversation. And sometimes I sit and I just kind of watch my kid. Dion, at the time of this recording next month, no, not next month, I'm sorry. In August, he'll be turning 25. We're about to have a 25-year-old. I know what you're saying. You're looking at that YouTube and you're looking at the guy on YouTube and you're saying he is way too young to have a 25. And you're correct. I'm 51. Um, but Dion will be 25 in August. Cameron will be 22 in August. Skylar will be 13 in September. Brandon will be 17 in December. Um, I'm sorry, no, Brandon will be 18. Jesus, my bad. Um, wow. I mean, like, just even saying that, these kids have grown up. Um, and you don't really know what they're gonna be when they grow up, but just to see them grow up. And it goes back to those conversations. And sometimes we're sitting at the table, as I was mentioning earlier. Sometimes we're sitting at the table and I'm just watching them and I'm listening to them. And I'm like, I remember Sharice and I having these conversations about, what it would be like, what our son would be like, what our daughter would be like. Now, I think in our daydreams, we only plan to have one child or maybe two. She said she always talked about three. I don't ever remember her talking about three. I just knew. Here's what I always say about kids. I knew that I'd have a son. I knew that my first child would be a son, and I knew that we had Dion, then we had Cameron 3 years later, and then we had Brandon like 3 more years after that, or 4 more years after that. And I thought we were done with three boys, and then here comes Skylar, the girl. Um, but each of them have their own personalities, and they're so unique. And what's interesting as a parent, is how you parent them. Like, when I grew up, it was just me and my brother Damon. That was it. So, and we are, if you know us, we're very similar. And so we're very similar in how we act. We're very similar in how we react. We're very similar in our thought process. And we're very much a product of our parents. Very similar in a lot of ways to our parents. Our four different personalities, four totally different people. Some similarities, but a lot of differences. And that's cool because they're very, very much individualistic. And I love it. But how you parent them is different. Um, but we give them all, we love them to life. I often say they are my four heartbeats. They're the four chambers of my heart. The heart has four chambers. Those are four chambers right there. And you can't, the heart don't function, without the four chambers. Um, but each chamber is special. Not more special than the other, but each chamber is special. So I think you the running joke in the house is that Skylar is the favorite child because she's my daughter. I don't have a favorite child. Don't. I love them all the same. But again, every day to me is like Father's Day, and I genuinely cherish the time that I have each day, and I'm very blessed to watch them grow. I don't understand how guys could just cut out on that and not want to be a part of that. That part of fatherhood, I never understood for guys who have a responsibility, have a child, even if you don't get along with the mother, not be an active participant in the child's life. That part for me, I'll never understand. But then again, some things aren't meant for you to understand, right? Um, but those four, you know, I do anything for them. They're the reasons why I work hard and work as hard as I do. They push me to be a better man. They push me to be a better father. They push me to be a better friend, especially as they get older. Um, and the thing I tell them all the time, like, look, man, you can come talk to me about anything, anything, and I mean that. And I want that to be how it is and how it is going forward. And much like what my dad told me and Damon, particularly for Dion and Cameron, since they're again, soon to be 25 and 22, but more like brothers. You know, I don't do a whole lot of fussing because I don't have to. I mean, they're young men, and the thing I try to tell them is like be conscious and aware of the decisions that you make because every decision that you make is going to affect you and the people around you, no matter what. Um, Make good decisions, and stay focused. I tell them that all the time. Stay focused. Dad, what does focus mean? Focus means focus. You got to be focused on something. You got to be focused on your goals. You got to be focused on where you want to go in life. And I can't travel the path for you, but I think I've blazed a pretty good path for you to follow. You don't have to follow and be what I became, but be who you're gonna be. Be who you want to be. Be who you and me and your mom have raised to be. But they're special. And again, Father's Day for me is uh, it's always special. Uh, there's not much that I want. Um, what I really want for Father's Day, they're not gonna get it for me, so I may just have to get it for myself. But that's cool. I'm not really somebody who looks for a lot of gifts and stuff like that. So uh, if they cook dinner for me, you know, fire up the grill, I'm cool. That's that's about all I can ask. I mean, it's not like it's football games, thing like that. So, um, but yeah, it's Father's Day is special. Um, it's particularly special for people like me who are fathers. So again, shout out to all the fathers who are listening and who are watching. Um, Salute to all of you because you have a purpose, and your purpose is to give your child three things. And this is something my dad told me that he was told right before I was born. And I said it on a previous podcast, and it's worth repeating. Three things you have to give a child: love. You have to give a child love. When a child gets love, particularly from their parent, there's no other love. There's no better love for that child than the love from their parents. Discipline. You have to give your children discipline. If you don't discipline your children, the world will. And the world won't discipline them the same way that you would. Third thing, an example to follow. That might be the hardest thing to do because no matter what, your kids are always watching. Even when you don't think that they're watching, they're always watching. Because at the end of the day, Dad, you're superhero. You're Superman. You're Iron Man. You're the Black Panther. You're whoever they. You're the Incredible Hulk. You're everybody. You're an Avenger. You're the superhero. And I think one of the biggest things that you can do is be present in their life, and that's a part of being an example for them to follow. Love, discipline, and an example to follow. My dad has done all three for me and Damon and Kara and Cleve, my stepbrother. Um, and I'm glad and thankful that he'll be able to continue to do it. So as far as the Lord sees fit for him to. Um, and that's the thing I want to pass on to my kids. I try to live by that. I try to do that. I try to be very mindful about what I say. Um, but I love on them, and I tell them every day that I love them, and they know that. And love wasn't something that was it's something that was understood in my house, but it wasn't really thrown around a lot in my house growing up. But I do that a little differently here. You know, I believe in telling people you love them, particularly your kids. Tell them that you're proud of them. Super proud of these kids. And I'm very excited for what they're going to do. One of the things I always said, and when they were growing up, I said, success is expected. Now, success doesn't necessarily mean that you got to be a billionaire, but success is expected. Why wouldn't you expect success? You have an intelligent mother, you have an intelligent father, you have intelligence. And so you know what to do. Go do what it is that you're supposed to do for you. I think that's important. But yeah, love, discipline, and an example to follow. Hopefully, all of you fathers out there doing that. Again, salute to you. Let me again be the first, not the last, to wish you a happy Father's Day. Enjoy your day, fellas. Um, to my crew, my homeboys, uh, happy Father's Day, fellas. Maybe we'll have a virtual mimosa on Sunday morning, this morning. Um, to my dad, thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. Love. I appreciate everything you've done and will continue to do. And I thank you for always being there for us. I appreciate it. And to my four chambers, there's no words that I could ever say or tell you how much you mean to me. You are a part of me, and I am thankful that God has lent you to me. And until they throw dirt on me, I'm going to do whatever I got to do for you. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thank you for checking out this bonus edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. The podcast drops every Sunday and every Thursday at midnight. From time to time, we drop bonus episodes like this one on Sunday. Uh, Make sure you hit the YouTube. On YouTube, it's very key because we have not only video, but audio of every episode. We're on TikTok. We have clips on TikTok. So follow us on TikTok. Follow us on social media. We're on Twitter X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, at 12 Kyle, at 12 Kyle Podcast. Uh, if you feel so inclined and you want to support us financially, hit us up on the Cash App, $ TWELVEKYLE. And if you look in the description box of this very podcast, you will see a link. Right above it, it says merch. Click that link. You click that link, you can go on and purchase 12 Kyle merch. That's mugs, t-shirts, hoodies, you name it, we got it. Again, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. One love. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.